Great.
Or tonight.
Great. It does, yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
It's great.
We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for January 15th, 2019, the regular session. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Valcor?
On the motion 1968, my vote is listed as abstained. I voted no.
Any other items? Seeing none, the chair will call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as amended will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve the executive session minutes of January 15th, 2019 as submitted.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. Any edits? Seeing none, the chair will call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? The motion carries. That brings us to our financial report. The chair will recognize the Associate Superintendent.
Okay, I have the latest report in your package. I think we're cruising along. I'm trying to just look here at the junior high cap, maintenance lines. A couple of the maintenance lines are starting to show negative, which we knew. We had between maintenance issues, some issues at the high school, and our lovely panel issue here, that we anticipated there would be some lines going over. I'm feeling fairly optimistic that we'll make out okay without needing to do any transfer or anything from school choice to cover it, which at the beginning of the year I thought we might, but we've got other lines that have positive balances. We're doing okay in utilities, and we had some staffing turnover for salaries that have got some balances on salary lines. So I think we're gonna be okay this year, and we'll just keep plugging on through.
Questions on the financial report? All right, budget highlights? Did you want to hit that?
Your call whether it's actually listed under budget subcommittee
All right,
report, so
we'll
let's
wait
do
for
it
that.
then.
That's fine. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, we'll then move to committee reports. Reports from our, staff reports. How could I forget the three of you? Staring me right in the face. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
I was gonna call on Lucas, but you could.
I was ready. I thought I was going to. All right, go ahead.
All right, so the first thing, I'll just look at in the report, it talks about the grow unit, and that's been very successful. The first row, the very top row, is all herbs, and the bottom three rows are different types of lettuce. And today we had the restaurant open, and we were able to harvest all of the lettuce, and it was all fresh. And the kids are having a great time doing that. You see Worcester's Best Chef, again, 5th year in a row, which of course is tough for me on that night, because when my wife comes home and hasn't won from Baypath, it's okay. But the thing is, I just want to press upon you the work that the kids do that day. They volunteer their time. They get there early. It's a huge event. They set up all the tables, get everything all lined up. Then they really don't have kitchens at Mechanics Hall. So they're working off of basically warmers and convection little ovens. The chefs are making these incredible meals to give to the judges, and it's our kids, Baypath kids' job to bring them to the judges, and they're pretty high-powered people like Barbara Houle from the Telegram and Gazette. And they have to bring them out and then present them and describe them to the judges. And then once that's done, they are at the will of every chef who needs help. So 2 of our kids spent almost the entire day frying chicken on the loading dock at Mechanics Hall, and yet still when they come back from the event, they are thrilled and they've had a great time, and they meet the chefs, and it's just a wonderful event. 2 major competitions this weekend, BPA. We'll be competing in Framingham, and later this month, we'll send about 70 kids to Bay Path for our districts. Again, any of our kids who qualify at that particular point will then move on to, well, the kids at BPA would move on to nationals. The kids from districts would move on to states later on in April. The Hitchcock Academy job, just to give you, because obviously with the history of the Hitchcock Academy in the area, our kids are actually replacing all of the overhead lights in Hitchcock Academy, bringing in all LED lighting and putting in all new outside light. It's more than 100 lights that they're putting in there, so it's a huge project. And the last thing is May 19th, Teen Chef Competition. It sounds bad, but I'm going to tell you, the ingredient is chili pepper. So every entree and every dessert has to have chili pepper. Not every day can be bacon, people.
Chocolate making. Favorite ingredient.
Long lines at the bottom. Okay.
All right, chili peppers to Mr. Sturgis.
As in my report, there's a number of activities that happen around the junior high. Going back to the end of January, it was one of our more productive days in terms of promoting a positive atmosphere with the Mixed Up at Lunch Day. We really just had kids assigned to seats by number and made them sit outside of their comfort zone, because as many people who aren't in a junior high may not realize that they literally sit in the exact same spot every single day. And they haven't had an assigned seat once since they've been here, but teachers do the same. And so we had a day where we forced them to sit with other people, and the feedback from kids, although in front of their friends will tell you they hated it because for one day they had to not sit with their friends. A lot of them reported that it was cool to get out with other people, see other kids. And we got some good feedback in terms of kids are honest when you ask them questions on ways to fix and get better. So it was the first time we did it. It went well. It can always go better. And so we took some feedback from the kids. One of the sources of feedback is a new principal advisory council that I started this month. It was definitely piggybacking off of Mr. Gilrain from last year's idea. But there's 15 students who wanted to be part of it. There's more than that, but I couldn't take too many more than that, and the conversations wouldn't really be productive. But 15 kids who sat with me in the cafeteria and talked about relatively serious issues facing junior high school kids at first, and then turned it into issues facing our school and things they'd like to see worked on. And kids as such, it was like talking to young adults. It was a very impressive conversation. A lot of the kids are talking about social media issues facing kids and ways we can get better at it. And ironically enough, a week later we had Safer Internet Day, which is a nationally celebrated thing. This year it was February 5th, and we had Ellen Miller from the district attorney's office came out, did a PowerPoint presentation on internet safety to all of our 7th graders, and at the same time, all of our 8th graders through their exploratory classes were in here doing stations around of practicing how to use the internet safely. We're beyond the days of telling them not to use it, but trying to teach them how to use it without getting themselves in trouble or and just making sure they're safe, plain and simple. The most recent report, we released the MCAS schedule coming up. So if anyone has any questions, the dates are pretty set for following probably traditional schedule. Thanks to all the additions of technology in this building over the past year, we were able to really condense the testing schedule into the old-fashioned model of 2 days per content area, which is awesome. And it doesn't have to be as dragged out, just schedule-wise. And then last but not least, it's not in my report, but our Project 351 students are, it's going to be going out in my monthly newsletter to parents on Friday, that they've gotten their project together and they're going to be promoting a collection of donated clothing, and they're going to be looking for, from the 5 communities, for any kind of gently used / brand new clothes. The specifics, I will send out a report to parents and get out there, but these 5 young ladies have done an unbelievable job planning this thing out. They came to me with checklists today of a plan by date of when they're going to release information, who they're going to do it to, sites outside of the school that they're going to collect things. These 5 young ladies certainly deserve to be our Project 351 kids, and they've showed it before the project even started. So I'm very impressed by how much work that they put in on their own time. So
This is an article?
Yeah, that sounds terrific, and I was wondering, would it be too much trouble for you to send the school committee that same communication?
Not at all. I send it out through, the parent thing is a website-based app that goes out to all through the Blackboard Connect Ed, so I can just have whichever
Yeah.
person, secretary who has access to that email
that
chain, I
list,
can just
yeah.
send it out.
Yeah, that would be great, or
Yep.
I would like it.
It's gonna be out, the kids are gonna get me they're emailing me, they said by tonight, but I told them they had till Friday morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
The specifics, and I will promote, I told them I'd promote as much as I could for their
Yeah.
project throughout the whole month.
Well, that's great,
So-
that's really good. The other thing I wanted to mention was the Winter Warrior Challenge.
Yep,
I think that sounded terrific.
and it's been well received. We have, so Ms. Peterson, the assistant principal, was really the driving person behind it, but a lot of staff jumped on board. We had, through the TED grants from previous years, obviously I wasn't here when the grants were written, but we have snowshoes, we have teachers who are taking kids out at lunchtime, recess time, to walk the campus and do the snowshoeing. Just some people are just walking laps around the building with kids. Kids are sharing things on Twitter with their parents, walking around the communities and just getting
Yeah.
outside. And so
Is that gonna continue, like, into the spring?
the contest was designed around, because they are keeping points, and it's by advisories, and there's a
Okay.
winning advisory, so the cap of the contest is actually is tomorrow.
Oh.
It was February 1st to February 28th to just
This
promote the
sounds
kids
great.
getting outside, moving around.
Great. Mr. Lucas?
All right. He went over, so I only have to go 30 seconds.
You yielded a minute and a half of your time to him.
I like this last slide. We recently had some huge events at the high school. Just to start, we hosted a regional gymnastics tournament, then a national archery tournament. Hopefully some of you folks got to see that. It's a great opportunity for our own kids who are talented to perform at their own high school, but also to bring some attention to Tantasqua, a lot of business to local businesses, restaurants, hotels. It also allows our Tantasqua Music Association parent group and our Booster Club to raise a lot of funds by selling food to those events, which again then helps our students, obviously, and our student body with their activities, which is great. We're also going to host the state cheerleading final on March 10th. If you want to see some talented kids do that, you're welcome to attend that. That will be a great event. We've done that every couple years so far. So that will be the MIAA Championships will be held here at Tantasqua. I'm not going to give a lot of Stuco away, but we did do a blood drive. Next year, we're going to do 2 blood drives so that we qualify for our graduates for a $3,000 scholarship from Red Cross. We're hoping to increase that. Our new nurse Sarmet is finishing the year as our school nurse, is working with student council to bring about a much bigger event, blood drive, going forward to more positively affect our community. And even our local hospitals are in need of blood right now. NHS does have a book and toy drive planned for March that they're excited about. Today, we had a special advisory period. Some kids went to course selections for next year. We had the seniors attend a video if they had known the Clay Soper story, which was given to us. The district attorney had folks here today and presented a video of the dangers of kids about partying, mixing drugs and alcohol, and how it affects your body and how it can break down. It's very, very dangerous. A lot of students don't know, a lot of adults don't know that when you mix certain drugs, even prescriptions that kids are on for either medical situations or mental situations, once combined with alcohol can cause your kidneys and your liver to shut down. Clay Soper was a student who did pass away at a party. So we're trying to send those messages. We had good discussions with our seniors today on that. Our sophomores and juniors have already seen that, and our freshmen will see it during advisory next week. So one of our wellness activities. District Attorney will be here next week to address our freshmen also, Joe Early. I think that's about it.
Any questions for our principals? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
To committee reports. Dave?
First up in athletics, the first round of district games for both the boys and girls varsity basketball teams are home tomorrow night. The girls are playing at 5:30 and boys at 7 p.m. Both teams are the number 4 seed facing the number 5 seed this season. And the spring sports season will be here soon, beginning on March 18th with the spring sports meeting next week. In student council news, it's been a very busy time of year. On the 14th, we did have the blood drive where we collected 25 pints of blood. And again, we hope to have 2 or 3 blood drives per school year starting next year. Also on the 14th, student council met at the high school a little after 6 in the morning to hang hearts for Valentine's Day with each student's and faculty member's name printed on them with hopes to increase school spirit. Next week, Tantasqua will be sending 16 delegates to the 42nd annual MASC State Conference, where delegates will be able to hear from motivational speakers and learn new leadership techniques from both advisor and student-led workshops. While at the conference, Tantasqua will be participating in the Polar Plunge for Special Olympics yet again. We have a $4,000 fundraising goal this year and are over halfway there with about $2,500. And the week after, Student Council will be hosting Do Be Nice Week. This is a collaboration with a bunch of clubs at school, including Be Good to People, NHS, Student Wellness Advisory. And each day will be sponsored by a different club promoting positivity and school spirit. To cap off the week, there will be the Spring Fling Dance, and that will be held on that Friday, March 15th at 7 p.m. We're expecting about 500 students to be there. And lastly, at the end of March, on March 23rd, Tantasqua will be hosting the first ever statewide junior high student council conference. On the MASC board this year created this new initiative to expand the conferences from the high school level to the junior high level with hopes to increase leadership involvement earlier. So we're really excited to have that. It'll be a 9 to 5 event here, and we're expecting somewhere around 300 junior high students to be in attendance. And that's about it.
That's great. Super. Any questions for Tate? Hope you're headlining that event.
Yes.
Welcoming
It's the
everyone.
first ever middle school student council
That's fantastic.
conference. It's pretty awesome.
That's great.
So she deserves a lot of credit for
Yeah.
pulling that together. It's great.
But let Lucas know if you need any money.
It's gonna be close, Mike.
And if you need more, come to Floyd.
Yeah.
Mrs. Noyes Miller.
Alrighty, Budget Committee has met a couple times since our last meeting, and in your packet is the proposed fiscal year 20 budget. Before I make the motion, just want to say that it was unanimous for the Budget Subcommittee. There's really not that much change this year, other than salaries, contracts, basically. And as you note on the front of it, Deb had made a note of the budget highlights. I won't go over those because hopefully you've all read them. So I would like to make a motion for the fiscal year 20 budget, $24,093,359, which is a 4% increase.
Bring that to the floor. It's a recommendation of the Budget Subcommittee. Is there any discussion?
I can just add a little bit.
Go ahead, Deborah.
It's just, I mean, yeah, the things that are driving a little bit are pretty self-explanatory. A couple small increases in areas that are really needed, some after-school nursing support, the special needs population going across the street. So this is a bit higher than we've had the last couple of years. However, everyone was comfortable supporting it to move forward because our first look at revenues is actually gonna bring it down to just over a 2% assessment. So we're in good shape. We've got a couple of revenues that we'll present next month. We are one of the few in our area anyway that are slated to get a little bit more in Chapter 70 than the bare minimum of 20 per student. We do have additional out-of-district vocational tuitions that we're getting this year, so we'll budget next year. So our revenues actually are, for the first time in a number of years, looking pretty good, that we'll be able to bring this down. So I do think it's something that's doable, and as usual, when we come back next month, we'll kind of have the layout to show you what the overall impact is by town, showing that we think it's doable. We always have one town struggling, so this year that will likely be Wales, but we will continue to work through the process with them and do our best to help.
Pat?
Just a couple of, I guess they're not questions, I'd just like you to expand maybe a little bit
Yep.
on what you said here.
Yep.
You said you added a nursing/assistant
Yep.
to serve the special education, which I understand, but can you like describe that job description?
Yeah,
What
it
that
actually, We were fortunate to not need that position so much here at the junior high because of the proximity of the nurse to that Pathways classroom. They're very medically fragile folks. At Burgess, when they were in the Pathways program there, we did have the need to have, it actually was an RN, could be an LPN, would be fine, that served as both a one-on-one aid, but also had that medical training to do things like feeding tubes with that population.
Okay, yeah.
So it wasn't completely paid as a full nurse assistant if it was sitting in the nurse's office, but kind of a blended rate. And we did that for all the years when they went through Burgess. Then they came up here and we didn't. And we actually made out okay. We figured we'd try out and see how it was.
Yeah.
The proximity to the nurse here worked out okay. Now they're going across the street and gonna be just too far away to not have that support there. So that's something we felt like we needed to add in there.
Okay. And then with the senior high nursing, increase in hours.
Yeah, so it's on the senior high nursing line. It might not necessarily be from that, right now that line is, there's the nurse and there's the nurse assistant.
Yeah.
What Mike asked for and we completely supported was the money to have additional nursing coverage until 3:30 every day. Because we don't. Right
Okay.
now at 2 o'clock,
2 o'clock,
the nurses are gone and there's so many activities going on there. So we would post that. So there's a number of nurses over there that could say, oh, I'll take the extra money. It could be the
Yeah.
nurse assistant, it could be the nurse. It could be one of the 2 allied nurses. But we just put the money in there, in that line, and then we'll post to get some coverage from 2 to 3:30 every day.
Okay,
And Pat, you were
Because-
involved with NEASC with us. There was one of,
Yeah.
actually one of the recommendations that NEASC made too. because
Yes,
they were-
I thought it
They were
was.
impressed with how many kids we have after just for help
Yeah.
sessions.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things they advised us to look into. So we've kind of done that, and we feel like it's time now where between after-school help sessions and clubs and activities,
Right,
there are days we have 400 kids over there.
yeah,
It's just in case something happened, it would be great to have it.
yeah.
Yep.
And then the last question is, it says continued gradual increase in athletic trainer hours. Where are we with that?
Yeah,
right
Mike,
now?
how many hours are we looking at next year with that?
It's about half full-time. With this, it'll make it about half full-time. How many hours that is, it depends. When there's not a lot going on, she doesn't have a lot of hours. When we're in full mode season, she has a lot of hours, but it's balanced out through the year. This will allow her to cover more events that are non-impact or violent sports. She has to be at football, she has to be at field hockey in the fall, she has to be at lacrosse games in the spring, and basketball in the winter. But this will allow her to do other sports besides that and be at those games, and also to take some time to do some rehab with athletes get injured during play.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the goal, that this
Are
money
we
will allow us
still
to do.
going toward the goal of a full-time athletic trainer, or?
Our current AD is logging what our needs were, what we have. We think this satisfies what we've tracked so far. Our new AD has done a great job with this, but that's something we're tracking again this year, and we'll do that again next year, Pat. And
Yeah.
at some point, that is probably a possibility.
Okay,
So
okay.
we're just trying to do it incrementally as we see that our students need it.
Maybe at some point during this upcoming year, we might be able to have a presentation about the athletic department.
Sure.
Just, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Talk about all of these different things. and
Absolutely.
get it with them.
Yeah, Pat, absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Other, Plaza?
So to add on to the athletic trainer questions,
Yes.
so it seems even if, it almost seems like we should have enough hours to have 2 part-time people here, because, you know, they have to be at field hockey or they have to be at football, but, you know, girls soccer is the highest concussion rate,
Yep.
you know, out there, and so I feel like, I don't know if that's being discussed, or it would be nice almost to have somebody that stayed in the office for rehab
Yeah.
type things, and kids could go in there and get taped up every day, and then somebody's out there at the games.
Yeah, she's in a golf cart and she has a radio.
Yeah,
and
I've
she's-
seen her,
She's
definitely.
easily contacted.
But it just seems
I
kind of
don't, I don't
like-
know of any schools that have 2 part-time folks.
Right.
I understand your idea, it's not a bad idea. I know there are schools that have a full salary, full-time trainer.
Right.
It depends on what schools you look at and what you go to and sizes and stuff like that, but we
Yeah,
haven't
like,
really,
what are the
we hadn't
numbers?
discussed having two, no.
How many kids are playing sports each season? It's
Any-
gotta be pretty high.
Anywhere from 200 to 400 a season.
And so there must be some sort of a recommendation for like how many hours, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just seems we're low, really,
Yeah.
really low.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's like a gradual bump up rather than let's just do it and get her these hours.
I think you're logging the need
Yes.
Right.
based upon
Correct.
activities.
Correct.
And that's what you were intending to
And
bring
then,
back.
and deploying that person properly, if it's gonna be a full-time position,
Right.
making sure that we're maximizing that usage. that
Well, that's
benefits
the
our
thing with
students.
full-time, right? Because you don't need them during the day, it's, so I get it.
Correct, right.
It's definitely.
What do they do when everybody's in history class?
Right.
That's right. That's,
Yeah,
but that's why we're trying to do it incrementally like this.
right.
So,
Other questions on the budget? I will say, we got together, I think, a Saturday morning in January, as is often the case, full preparation done by Deb and the principals and Aaron, and really great kind of half-day session that allows us to look at the budget holistically, so nice job, Sheila, pulling that together, and it was a good day, so thank you to the principals for always putting together clear budgets and having good explanations. All right, then we'll take a vote on the recommendation before you, recommended by the Budget Subcommittee. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Budget passes unanimously.
To the public
And
hearing.
then-
Public hearing.
Right, so just confirmation, the public hearing is always on the night of our regular meeting, so that would be the 19th. We would post it for 6:15?
We did 6:15 last year.
Yeah.
Because what's happened, I think, is we've
Six,
run
we went home.
short and then we
Right.
hung around.
Right.
Yeah.
6:15, I would say.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. All right, no technical report. Dr. Waters is not here. Moves us to curriculum. Mrs.
No
Connor?
meeting, no report. Our next meeting is next Monday at 6 o'clock.
Great. Brings us
Agenda's posted.
next Monday, 6 o'clock for curriculum. I did see that go out. Bylaw and policy, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Bylaw met on,
Dispatcher Fitzgerald. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
yes, exactly. Bylaw met on December 17th and started what we expect to be a very long process of reviewing the entire packet of policies and bylaws for the Tantasqua Regional District. And that came about because as we've had policies sent to us this year, either for review or for drafting, it's become apparent that many of our policies have not been reviewed in at least 5 years, and in many cases, it's been 10 years or more. So we are hoping to start with policy A and work our way through and try and identify any redundancy, any policies which may be obsolete, references which are not correct, and the like. The only policies that we'll be bringing to this entire group, obviously, are those that require action from the group. We have 4 on the agenda today under new business. Mr. Chairman, I'd take those up now, if that's all right.
Let's do it.
I'll be happy to go through, each of the 4 policies. Once we have a motion, I'd like to put a motion on the table to accept the recommendations of the bylaw subcommittee with respect to each of these 4 policies, policy ADC, ADDA-E, BBAA-1, and BBBE.
Recommendation of the Bylaw and Policy Subcommittee. We will bring that motion to the floor. Michelle, do you just want to give a quick
Exactly.
update on each?
Yep.
And then we'll take a vote.
Yep, the first policy, ADC, was originally a policy that pertained solely to smoking on school premises, and with the changes obviously in our culture, that needed to be expanded to include not just tobacco, but any nicotine delivery product. So you'll see that that policy has been changed to conform to the law that went in effect on August 26th, to include not just tobacco, but vaporization and aerosolization products. Our next policy, which did not make its way into the packet, ADDA-E. Hopefully when you hear the explanation, you won't need to see it. That policy, we are recommending be rescinded. It pertains to core requirements And now that fingerprinting is required, these core requirements are actually contained in a much broader policy, which we have on background checks. So this particular policy is redundant and unnecessary. We're suggesting that it be rescinded. BBAA-1, School Committee Authority regarding Tantasqua and Union 61. This policy was discussed as setting forth really the relationship between the district and Union 61, and really it's the only place in our policies which discusses that relationship, and we felt that it was not sufficiently clear as to that distinction. So you'll see that we've tried to clarify that by identifying the grades that the district is responsible for, and adding a line about Union 61 pertaining solely to the elementary schools. And finally, policy BBBE, unexpired term fulfillment. We are recommending an amendment to that policy simply to conform to the amendment to the regional agreement, which took place, I forget how long ago, 2 years ago? 3 more than that? But
Probably 3 years ago, but it took us like 2 years to
get in there.
Meetings, because we missed one.
But that change pertained to how we fill seats once they're vacated. You'll see that new language and the reference to the regional agreement makes us consistent there. So,
Great. Any questions for Mrs. Fitzgerald? Seeing none, then the chair will call for a vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I do have, my apologies, I missed the meeting for this. Policy BBAA-1. The first paragraph there, the final sentence, it says the supervisory union 61. I think it's superintendency union 61, not supervisory. You sure about that?
Yes.
Because it's, my understanding was always that it was superintendency
For all
union.
all unions across the state are
called
supervisory.
supervisory units, yeah.
we did discuss that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Any other questions, comments, discussion? All right, the chair will call for a vote. All of these on first reading. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? On first reading, motion carries unanimously.
Our next meeting, by the way, is tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Great.
Am I correct there, Deb?
It is.
Okay.
All right. We'll move to negotiations. Mrs. Randall.
We had a strategy session tonight prior to our meeting, and our IBB training will be on March 29th, and negotiating the following day, which is Saturday. 2 units.
Thank you, Mrs. Randall. Let's see, building and physical plant, Dr. Waters is not here. No update.
We didn't meet.
Didn't meet. Okay, thank you. Brings us to public access 1. Transition to communications, 3 letters of thanks in your packets as directed by the committee. That will now bring us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Nozick.
Thank you. I'll just take them out of order if that's okay, because the SRO update is simply last meeting when the MOU was approved. I did say I would just give you an update. I sent everyone an email to let you know that Garrett Dana was appointed by the chief to be the SRO. Following that January meeting, for a first couple of weeks, he was still listed on the patrolman schedule because the chief had not moved him without the authority of the committee for the MOU. So he spent a couple of days when he could here. There was also some professional development that he had already been signed up for, but following vacation week this week, he is fully on board, full-time here, splitting his time between the schools and working really well with the principals on coordinating schedules and things like that. I don't know if you could maybe, you guys share just a couple, even in the few weeks that he's been here, the types of activities he's been involved in, just real high level.
It's been extremely beneficial we've had some kids in crisis and some medical situations that come up. It's been great to have his assistants communicate with Sturbridge and get assistance. He's been wonderful in classrooms. It's been great, addressed our health classrooms and some other courses. Some civics, Pat, were addressed also. Was great in history classes, so it's been a great experience so far. He's been very busy. I thought it might be hard at times to find different things for him to do, but he has been very busy between both buildings, back and forth. It's been very beneficial. So far it's been terrific. And he's been all in, energy-wise, and everything's been great. It's nice to see him connecting with the kids.
He does that a lot at lunch, very
Yeah.
visible at lunch with the kids.
Yeah.
Does he spend one day at the high school and one day at the junior high, or does he go back?
Yeah, we've
every day?
rotated. We've rotated. Some days, because of needs, student needs, he's gone back and forth, or presented to a classroom here and then a classroom over there. But for the most part, we've worked out a schedule. We're not going to do every other day so that the students and the community is aware of his schedule. We
Right.
want it to be a little bit of a surprise.
Right.
And his presence is, there's no consistent necessarily presence, but he's always in one of the other buildings. So we have devised a schedule. We share that by email. If there's a change, Greg, Garrett, and I email each other in the morning and something's come up and we switch and we're flexible. But so far it's been terrific.
Yeah, he came to our superintendent advisory committee meeting last month, just
Yep.
pulled him in and kind of talked head level to the kids, and he's been in classroom, so far good. But
And he
is-
addressed our school improvement council at the high school, our drug task force, and some student groups also, so it's been nice. So he's kind of formally been introduced to folks across the street, so.
It's great.
And on our end, he's the same thing, he's in classrooms, he's active, he's on his own without our guiding him towards setting up his own schedule with teachers. He's already done a couple of lessons from classrooms. It helps, he's a Tantasqua grad, and he uses that to talk to the middle school level kids to say about his road to becoming an officer, and it's been very positive so far, so.
Thank you for that. And then the MSBA Doors and Window Project update, and I'm just gonna speak a little bit of where we are in the process, and then Deb has passed out some warrant article language that we need to discuss and hopefully approve tonight, and that is under new business, so we can kind of move it all as one. or-
Yep. You had one in your packet, but the one we just circulated
Is
as an
updated.
updated sentence, so that's why you didn't get the
They're
updated one.
both just as dry and boring, but the second one just a little bit longer. MSBA boilerplate stuff. So we had not, through the process, the last physical meeting that we had with the OPM and the architect was back in November, and then in December and January, you all voted the two contracts for the OPM and the architect services. So following the signing of those contracts and approval by the committee to move forward, we did schedule a meeting with the OPM and architect, again, myself, Deb, Greg, and Rick Weatherby there as well, and we met on the 14th, the Thursday before vacation. So we met with them to discuss kind of the work and the timelines and what's next in the process. So the full schematic design is due to the MSBA on May 8th. So between now and May 8th, they will take all of the data, all the blueprints. They have been here multiple times to measure things, to check restrooms, all sorts of issues, compliance that they're looking for. So they will work between now and May 8th to come up with the full schematic design. That will hopefully at that point go to the Mass School Building Authority for what will hopefully be their approval on June 26th. So between now and May 8th, it'll be quiet. We won't necessarily have a lot. We have scheduled an update meeting, so we are gonna keep physically meeting with them, which is great. Email is fine, but it's really nice to all be in the room and be going over the schedule. So as of right now, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of the warrant language? Yeah, so there's a number of legalities we've got to get through. One is for you folks to vote to actually move forward with the project and notify the 5 towns. Because we have to go to the 5 towns and ask permission to borrow. We legally, because it's an MSBA project, they legally make you get the vote for the full amount. Even though they're telling us they will pay 55.63, we've got to get the full amount approved by you folks and then by the 5 towns. Problem is, we've got all of our towns now saying the deadline to get warrants in for the annual town meeting is within the next week or so. We're not gonna have a true schematic design projection figure, which is pretty close to what the real project will be until that in May. So we have been given fairly confident at this point that the project will probably be somewhere between 1.5 and 2 million. So we put the 2 million here. I will notify every Board of Selectmen that this is a placeholder. Here's the article. We'll be coming to you with amendments to the articles as we get close to the town meetings with the real number. Then comes the complexity of explaining to them, we don't quite know yet how much we might ask you to help us pay for this. So we've had conversations for the last couple of years. We've been watching our E&D add up. We've been saying we want to put some money towards this project. It'd be beautiful if it was $1 million project and we could fund all of our half. Budget subcommittee conversations have agreed we can't totally wipe out all of our reserves, but we're probably in the area of about $500,000 that we could put towards this. So if it's a $2 million project, we're gonna end up with a $900,000 after MSBA pays. We've got, this is worst case scenario, I believe. We put $500,000 of our E&D in towards it, and we would be looking at about $400,000. Just to give you a feel for what we might ask the towns for. And Budget Subcommittee and Building and Physical Plant have both supported asking the towns if need be, because we haven't asked the towns for anything for these facilities now in almost 20 years, or capital. But just to give you a feel for what the impact is, it really is pretty low in my opinion. If we were to borrow $400,000 for 5 years, the payments, the year one payment would be $99,000. That breaks out between our 5 towns. Brimfield, $16,000, Brookfield, just under $14,000, Holland, $11,000, Sturbridge, $48,000, Wales, just about $8,000. So the most we would be asking them is 5 years of that kind of payment schedule, which I think we would be reasonable to ask for and we could get support. Best case scenario, the project comes in closer to 1.5 million, and we're sitting here saying, we said we'd do $500,000. If it's 50,000 or 100,000 more, do we want to tap a little bit more of school choice? We'd have conversations before going out and borrowing $100,000. So I'd love to get to that point, but we're not gonna know until May. So the conversations with the Board of Selectmen will be exactly what I just told you. We're hoping that there will be little to any ask of the towns. We think worst case would be the numbers that I just handed out.
And know that the figure here is the worst case or most conservative highest number. There's a reason for that. Town meetings, the discretion of a moderator is pretty clear relative to the operation of a town meeting. And if you put a warrant article in and then you needed more, a moderator could very easily reject that because they could argue that it's not germane to the motion, and that if someone had known it would be that value, that they may have decided to come to the meeting, and that the fact that they didn't, because they didn't know, they would throw it out. If you go lower, you generally have no problem. So my guidance was go the exact highest number, knowing that the hope is we could either withdraw the need for the assessment and or adjust the number down on town meeting floors, but that we're able to kind of play it that way as opposed to leaving it up to the moderator, which, can sometimes be a challenge.
So the language you have here is the MSBA, well, actually what you had in your packet was the MSBA required language. Then when I also floated it by bond counsel, just anticipating we may get there, they added, the update that you have is just the very last line in the voted paragraph there to say any premiums received by the district would be applied toward and therefore reducing the amount borrowed. And that's just a bond counsel technicality. So our request is that you vote the motion as presented here. This exact same language would then be forwarded to the towns, specifically saying motion this to go to the 5 town meetings and their annual town meetings.
Entertain a motion to approve as presented and forward to the 5 towns. Let's get the motion and then I'll take the question.
So
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. Bill?
Yeah, is it, we send this motion, if the towns don't call a town meeting in 45 days, Is that, is it still?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
Legally, yes. Legally, this last thing here, we have the legal obligation to say, within 7 days, notify them that you folks took
Right.
this vote. We don't think it's in good faith to say, I'm just notifying you in the next 45 days, pull something. We're formally gonna submit a warrant article.
Okay.
Some town meetings are closer than others. We just think at this point, since we are in annual town meeting time frame, we're just gonna say, here's the article we want you to put on the warrant.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion before you will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. We will work them.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Right.
you. Moving forward another step. Appreciate it.
Anything else on your report?
Primarily the big focus.
Great. No public access two. We have no unfinished business. We have handled new business. That brings us to open forum. It's an opportunity for the school committee to offer comments or observations. Is there anybody that would like to be recognized as a part of open forum?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made by Mr. Gilmeister, seconded by Mr. Haggerty. All those in favor of adjournment will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great.
Drive
Thanks so
safe.
much. Stay warm.